Can you characterize the economic environment in Britain for us right now?
Strengthening, I'm glad to say. We've been through a heck of a time with the financial crisis to which we were very exposed given the size and scale of our banking sector. And we took a beating in the recession. But as you say, we have turned a corner, but our economy, like others, is still fragile. There are going to be bumps in the road. But we are going to sustain the government support for the economy during this year in order to lock in the recovery. And that's the best policy for us to follow.
So what other policies might be needed on a government level in terms of keeping that recovery on track?
Above all, we need to maintain the British economy's environment and climate for doing business. You know, the World Bank still rates us as #1 in Europe and #5 in the world. And that's because we have flexible markets, flexible labour and product and capital markets. It's because we have lighter touch regulation, and we have a good competitive regime when it comes to corporate taxation and capital gains. Now, it's very important for us to preserve that environment for business, and we will, because it's private investment and exports which are going to drive our recovery, not consumer debt or public spending. Public spending after this year is going to be cut back as we reduce our deficit, as we know we must. So we have clear medium-term objectives and plans, but we also have to operate the discipline to keep to those plans, and that's what we're going to do.
Well, what do you think's going on with the sterling, sir? The British pound as well as the euro really taking a hit versus the U.S. dollar.
It's not taking that great a hit. There was a sharp movement yesterday, but that was actually linked to our biggest bank, HSBC, going into the market and selling sterling because it's linked to the what I hope will be the successful bid by our insurers Prudential for the Asian assets of AIG. People are also saying, well, we have an election coming and people are nervous about an uncertain outcome of what could be a very tightly run race. For all I know, they're even concerned that this present government, which has shown its decisiveness and its boldness and strength during this crisis, giving way to an administration which has less experience and is more lightweight. Well, I also happen to be the campaign manager as well as the business secretary, so I will be doing everything I can to avoid that eventuality and to make sure that this present government is re-elected when the election happens.
Yeah, when are you expecting the election to happen, #1? And are you surprised at the turn in sentiment? It looks like David Cameron and company are really pulling ahead.
No, their lead is shrinking by the day. I think the reason for this is that during the course of the recession and the financial crisis, and we also had a great furore in our parliament about MPs' expenses and allowances, it's not surprising that the government took a beating. And people's default reaction to that was, well, let's get somebody else in who can do a better job. Well, we're now coming through this period, and they're looking at the alternative and realizing they have a choice and are questioning whether the alternative party and whether the alternative leader and Prime Minister in Mr. Cameron, the leader of the Conservatives, would indeed do a better job and whether they represent the sort of change the country wants. So there's a lot of scepticism, a lot of people asking questions. There's a re-evaluation going on, and we're at the beginning of that, not at the end, and that's why the polls are showing that volatility, but volatility more in our favour than our opponents.
Mr. Secretary, let me ask you about Greece. Do you think this debt issue is a problem for EU members only? Can Britain stay on the sidelines in the Greece debt issue, given the fact that the banks own 1/5 of Greek bonds?
Well, look, anything that harms the Greek economy or harms the European economy is not good for Britain. I mean, the European economy, it represents our domestic market. It's where the overwhelming bulk of our trade happens, the investment flows. I mean, we have a huge stake in the success of the Eurozone. So we want to see Greece taking the tough action taking the tough medicine, and we've heard more about that today from the Greek government, that they need in order to put their fiscal state and condition into a better form. Now, that's going to be tough for the Greek people, and we offer them our solidarity, but it's not work, it's not medicine that we can take on their behalf. They have to do it for and to themselves, and we will be there along with our other partners in Europe to help and encourage them to do so.
You think that Britain should join the euro despite the problems the currency has had?
Well, in principle, the British government's policy objective is to join the euro. But as I've made clear, this is not going to happen anytime soon. I mean, to be frank, we've had advantages in not operating our monetary policy as part of the single eurozone frame. We've been able to operate policies, both monetary and fiscal, independently from the eurozone. And I'll be very frank, that's been helpful to us during this period. But as I say, in the longer term, we recognize that we are fully part of Europe, Europe's economy, its currency, the welfare of its economic performance are very, very important to us. And therefore, we're not seeking to separate ourselves or detach ourselves from the eurozone in any way. But having said that, I would not like to place a prediction as to when we will join the single currency. It's a long time in the future.
Mr. Secretary, good to have you on the program. We so appreciate your time tonight.
Pleasure.